Alrighty then. Quiet on the set. Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Happy Vlogmas day number 6. If you're new here, my name is Arwen, I'm an OT, and today we're going to talk about some tips that can help you be successful as an OT student during Fieldwork 1. So just to be clear, this is specific to Fieldwork 1, although these tips probably apply to Fieldwork 2. But if you were unfamiliar with OT or the degree process, you have to do some clinical rotations. We call them fieldwork. The first set of your fieldwork is called Fieldwork 1, and it's 3 or 4 separate 1-week time periods where you go and basically observe another occupational therapist. So Fieldwork 1 happens once a semester for the first 3 or 4 semesters of OT school. They last for 1 week and you are in the same location the entire time. Fieldwork 1 usually doesn't have a lot of demand. It's mostly just observing. But I wanted to give y'all some tips today on how to be successful. I have had one Fieldwork 1 student, and I believe I should be getting another one in January. So I wanted to make this video to help y'all and help me reflect a little bit as a clinical instructor, which is still weird to think that I would have that role. But without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1 is arrive on time, and by on time, I mean early. In my book, if you're not early, you're late. I have sort of a problem about being late, so I'm a little bit anal retentive about that. But definitely do not be late on your first day, or any days for that matter. If you need to, do a test run and drive there to practice and see how much traffic there's gonna be, figure out where to park. I know for myself, parking in hospitals or unknown locations can be kind of stressful, and you kind of don't want to have to worry about that on the first day. So if you need to, do a test run, figure out where you're going, and then that kind of takes away one level of stress. And number 2, dress professionally. I feel like this is straightforward, but I think some people still might need reminders. So just dress according to your school or dress according to the fieldwork facility that you're going to. Hopefully they will give you some guidelines. That really just includes don't show a lot of skin, don't like have your freaking jacket open all the way, don't show your midriff or your butt or your underwear. Girls, don't wear a lot of like flashy jewelry or makeup, and if you need to, put your hair up depending on what setting you're in. Just be professional. I feel like those are pretty straightforward things, but sometimes we need a reminder. Number 3. So before you arrive, it's gonna be really imperative that you have a goal of what you want to learn, what you want to see, what you want to practice, and that you communicate that to your CI, your clinical instructor, on the first day. I would try and definitely have a either daily goal or a week-long goal of what y'all are gonna accomplish and what you are going to be doing during that week, since Fieldwork 1 is pretty observational. But it is also a time for you to kind of explore and try a couple of different things, maybe like practice writing your documentation and notes, maybe practice a couple of transfers, or just talking and engaging with the clients. But just make sure you have a plan. But just make sure you have a plan, and don't be afraid to tell your CI like, hey, this is what I want to see. I was really looking forward to maybe seeing an evaluation or seeing a patient with this diagnosis. That way y'all are all on the same page. And they're gonna be very clear with you, hopefully, about what their expectations are of you and what you're gonna be doing that week. Number 4 is email your CI about a week before and find out any additional information that you may need. That includes like where to go on the first day, what to wear, what's the lunch situation. I will say that I did not tell my student that we don't stop during the day for lunch. There's nowhere to heat up a lunch. It's, you're on the go all day. And I neglected to tell them that, and I felt really bad because I was a first-time clinical instructor, and I thought I told him all the information, and that was one thing that I left off. So don't be afraid to ask that. Ask if there's anything that you should review, any interventions or principles or diagnoses that you should review before showing up on your first day. Number 5, this is really important. Do not get in the way. Again, you are there mostly just observing for Fieldwork 1, so try not to get in the OT's way or anyone else that's working in the facility. So if you're around nurses or PTs or other speech therapists or people that are working with other patients, try not to get in the way, be as courteous as possible. And number 7 relates directly to that. Always ask before you engage or touch a patient. Always tell the patient that you're going to do that, and also make sure your CI is aware that you're about to do something hands-on and that you'll actually have a plan to do that. Don't just feel like you have the authority to interact and do certain things without their consent or without your CI's consent. Number 8 is provide assistance when possible. So try and be as helpful as you can, like cleaning up or getting supplies when your CI asks. I think it just makes their life a little bit easier because they are taking you on as an additional burden, to be honest. So be as helpful as you can. Number 9 is tagging right along, and that is to be respectful of everyone at the facility and to be professional at all times. One thing that you do have to remember is that you're not only representing yourself, you're representing your school. So you really need to be professional in the way that you act, the things that you're saying. Don't act too silly, don't curse. Just don't make a fool out of yourself, and you'll be okay. You'll probably make mistakes and you'll feel really dumb and you'll feel like an idiot, and that's okay, but you don't want to be unprofessional. And number 10, don't be afraid to ask for feedback or to ask a lot of questions, but make sure they are actual thoughtful questions. Don't ask dumb questions. I mean, I guess no questions are dumb, but make them thoughtful. You know, you can say something like, hey, I saw you do this with the patient, and this is what I know about that, but I was wondering why you did it this way. You know, just show that you were actually observing what they were doing, and that's gonna probably earn you a few extra points. But if you need to ask really basic questions, you can, but try not to be too annoying. You know, there's a level of annoyingness with questions that can happen. You definitely don't want to be that person. Number 11 is kind of simple, but if you see any handouts or your CI or OT or anyone is using any like handouts or resources or patient education, don't be afraid to ask for a copy of that to take with you. I think you can always start building your resource binder as soon as possible. So don't be afraid to ask for copies of anything that your CI is using. And don't be afraid to ask to read the documentation. If they allow that, I would definitely ask to maybe read a patient's chart, do a chart review. Hopefully they will have you do that. If not, I would definitely ask to do a chart review. For the last 2 things that I wanted to point out, remember that the expectations are a little bit lower on Fieldwork 1, so I feel like you're allowed to make more mistakes. Your CI should be more forgiving as well, and they shouldn't expect you to know all the answers, and it's okay if you don't know the answer to a question that they ask. And if they do expect you to know everything, then your CI might not be the best, but most OT CIs I feel like are pretty understanding and really just want to help you learn and be the best OT that you can. But also, just like I said earlier, remember that your CI, this OT, is taking on an additional burden having you there, and they're doing extra work. They do earn continuing education credits for it, but I think it's only like 1 hour for the whole week of time. So the payoff isn't really that great. But you know, they're doing a service to the OT profession by taking on students. So just be mindful of that, so you're not, you know, ungrateful for maybe the placement that you get. Maybe it wasn't the one that you wanted, but just remember that it is a lot of additional time and effort for that OT. And lastly, if for some reason your placement should be horribly wrong and you hate the facility and you are clashing with your CI, do not be afraid to reach out to your fieldwork coordinator. We had a really awesome fieldwork coordinator, and she did site visits and she constantly checked in on us. So if something is really wrong or you're not comfortable, don't be afraid to reach out and just have that open line of communication, and let your CI know too. Don't kind of go behind their back. I mean, if you really need to, you can, but just know that that's always an option. Okay, so those are my 12/13 tips. I think we got up to 13. I kind of lost track there at the end. But those are my tips for hopefully helping you be a successful Fieldwork 1 student. I believe some people might be starting their first fieldwork this upcoming semester. So after the holidays this next semester, some people are going to be going on their first fieldworks, and I know that can be really scary. But just enjoy it while you can. This is a time where there's really not as much pressure on you, so don't be afraid. It's all gonna work out, I promise. Okay, thanks for chatting with me today. Tomorrow is Saturday, big weekend plans. you get to come along with me. Hopefully you have some fun holiday plans in store for you as well. But I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.